are now live, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, both at home, everywhere where you are, abroad. We are having a conversation with the most important people, a very prestigious panel. We're discussing a very pertinent issue and a very sad issue, the issue of gender-based violence in the country. We will introduce them formally, and then we will allow them to talk to us. I am going to be facilitating the discussion together with a young woman, Thobeka Ndabula. Please greet the people, Thobeka.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. I am so happy that you are all here. Thank you so much, Mama Pumzile. You are our mother. You know that we love you so much. And thank you so much, President Mamu Batabile. You are welcome. Zazi, our Miss Universe, we are so proud of you. You are welcome. Putsia. Thank you so much. I am so thrilled and happy. Thank you so much for being an advocate for the topic, especially that we are talking about today. There's a lot that we're going to talk to you about, and that we want you to share your views about. In fact, it's a pandemic now. It's no longer just a gender-based violence and femicide. It is a pandemic. So you will tell us more on how can we get men being responsible and loving women. Thank you so much for your presence. And I want to say, enjoy yourselves, and the world is listening to you. And let's bring solution to what South African women are facing and women globally are facing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Thobeka. Without any waste of time, let me allow them to greet the public. Let me start with Sis Pumzile. Sis Pumzile Mlambongoka, everybody knows she is the executive director of the UN Women, but besides that, she is the former deputy president of this country, South Africa. She is also a former cabinet minister in the Republic of South Africa, but also she is a women activist in her own right. If you can do your greetings, Sis Pumzile.
Molweni Makaya, thank you so much for having us. And indeed, I hope you are home and you are safe.
Thank you very much, Sis Pumzile. We've got the president of the Women's League, who is in her own right is an activist, but also she's a former cabinet minister in different roles. But we brought her here because the Women's League is the biggest women organization in the country, and we would like to hear what is it that they would tell us about this pandemic that is gripping us. President Batabile, can you greet? President Batabile, can you greet? President Batabile, can you hear me? I can see you are in the dark there. If you can just greet.
It says network problem, Mom.
Yes, I think let me pass her. I will allow her to greet at a later stage. Miss Universe herself. Kababulise Tolokas.
Molweni Nonge, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this platform on this very, very important topic. I hope that we can all take away something from today. I hope we can change something about ourselves, and I hope we can see a different future and a different South Africa for our women.
Thank you very much, Zosbini.
Thank you.
Gwashu, Mfana Sepai, the captain himself. This is the captain of the team of South Africa, the Springboks, and we all know him, but he's here on the screen with us. Budisa Gwashu.
And goes Mama Molweni Kunenonge Makaya. Yeah, Mama, thank you so much, Kunenonge, for having me. And yeah, and thank you for all the amazing work that everybody in this platform has been doing to end gender-based violence. And I just want to say I'm also looking forward to using my voice and using my platform on this matter. And I know that I want to encourage so many more men to be using their voices for this, because this is not a woman problem. This is a humanity problem, and I think we all need to fight it together. And today, I just want to listen and learn, and obviously share some of the experiences why this is so important to my heart.
Thank you very much, Sia. President Batabile, can you hear us?
Yes, Comrade Deputy Minister, I can hear you, but
Okay.
we are driving.
Oh, okay. If you can just greet.
I'd like to greet everyone and thank you for bringing us together, and would also like to greet the UN women, Comrade Pumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. We are happy to see you.
Thank you very much, President. We can see that you are driving. We hope you will get home in time. Without any waste of time, Ms. Pumzile, you are the Executive Director of the UN Women, and you are watching what is happening at home in South Africa right now. Week after week, we are dealing with gender-based violence and femicide. We see women going out there saying this is enough, but it doesn't seem to subside. Your thoughts, Ms. Pumzile, and what you can share with us on this pandemic.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, for having me on the panel. I also want to thank all my fellow panelists. I have been now on a couple of panelists with Zazi, and I'm so proud of how hard she is working. She's unfazed by the pandemic. So thank you, Zazi, for that spirit. Lovely to have you, Sia, and that you responded positively to the call of the Secretary General to men to take on this flight, and a South African man has been asked to assist the UN to talk to men, if you like, dude to dude, about this pandemic. And of course, thank you to President Comrade Batabile. Also, you have also been using your voice. And of course, Deputy Minister, thank you. And the young woman moderating us. So the first thing I would like to establish is that this problem needs everybody. That is why I'm mentioning each one of you, because you bring a different contribution. At this time in South Africa, we have seen the incident of violence against women increasing, and in some cases, we have also seen the difficulties of accessing help that is needed in a time of crisis. We have been encouraged by the fact that the president has spoken a lot about this, and there has been initiatives by civil society and different partners working together inside and outside a government to pull their resources together to make a difference, but it's not enough. Women are still dying in large numbers. And so I want to take this issue to the community, to call on the community to be in the center of this fight. On average, the increase of violence against women in the corona period has been by 30%. And the death, the femicide that we witness is actually committed by people who are known to women, their intimate partners, and the violation of children is also committed by family members. So there is something we need to talk about in the family, in the community, because the most gruesome violence is actually happening in the neighborhood that women would otherwise call a place of safety, and in their homes, also in a place that women should call a place of safety. So we actually need to talk about what is happening inside the family and to deal with those challenges. And of course, I just want to put it out there also that alcohol plays a significant role in whether violence against women increase or decreases. In the case of South Africa, we also have witnessed that. So let us also just make sure that we do not take this issue of alcohol light. It is serious both for ending violence, decreasing violence against women, and basically for keeping people safe. Thanks, Nokawe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sis Phumzile. Thobeka, come in.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like also to add, thank you so much, Ma'am Phumzile. Indeed, this is a pandemic and we really need to make sure that we bring a solution out of this program and advocate about it out of this program as well. And now we're going to ask Zazi to give us her take on gender-based violence and femicide. And we know that your sister has lost a friend, and again, our sincere condolences. Please take us, what is it that we ought to do as women, and how can we protect ourselves as women and young women?
Thobeka, thank you so much for that. Thank you for your condolences as well. Where I am at right now with regards to gender-based violence is I'm tired. You know, I'm so exhausted because I feel like we're on every panel every year talking about the same thing over and over and over, you know, protesting, pleading, begging, and nothing seems to change. I mean, we saw Karabo lose her life a few years back, and many more other women whose names we never, you know, knew. A year ago, we had another death of another young woman. This year, just now, last week, we have another death of another woman, and these are only cases that we know about. So there's so many, and it makes me so tired and exhausted. And, you know, when I received this email and I saw, you know, the tagline that women rise above it all, sometimes I ask myself, you know, what is it that we are rising above? You know, women are tired of rising above gender-based violence, are tired of rising above being raped, and are tired of rising above femicide. And, you know, something needs to be done. So it's very difficult for me, Sis Thobeka, to say, what is it that we can do as women to protect ourselves? Because I feel like it's at some point victim blaming. Like, you know, women should be able to protect themselves. Why should we protect ourselves? Why should we have to do it? Why should it have to go, you know, that far? Because, you know, people will say, you know, girls, protect yourselves by wearing longer skirts. And yet you'll find a 2-year-old baby was raped. What were they wearing? Girls, protect yourselves by not going at night and drinking. Why? Why am I the one who should be checked instead of the person who's doing this to women? Why should I be the one who's being educated to protect myself? And so it's very difficult for me to answer that question, because I feel like there's nothing that we can do as women. It's up to the men to really start acting right. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Thank you so much. Let me bring you in. And Zazi is saying why it's supposed to be us women that are supposed to be protecting or taking care. You need to wear long dresses. Even if you wear long dresses, you still get raped, or you still being victimized by men. So as a man and a young man, what solutions perhaps that you want to share with us on how can men protect women?
I must first say thank you for having me here, and just listening to Umama Phumzile speak and Uzozi speak. It's really tough to hear, and for me, obviously I've never experienced anything like that, so I don't understand the feeling. But I remember when I was a child, I used to wake up, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, wake up screaming because I was hearing Umamam Ekala. And as Mama Phumzile said, it's normally the people that the women love and the people that they supposed to be safe around. And, if it's not Umalume, it's Utata, or it's a boyfriend there. And at the time, I was like, there's nothing I could have done. There's nothing I could have done physically to help my mom. And then I started growing up, and I started seeing it around my community as well. And then it starts becoming normal to see if umdo indoda une-argument nomntu ongusisi okanye umntu ongumama, if abagrishi uzaphakamisa isandla ambethe. And that's what I started seeing. And then I got a bursary. I came out of the community and found it down. But I started seeing my friends, because we see it so many times from our parents or the people around us. You start thinking that's the way to behave. And then I thought about it as I was speaking to Mama Phumzile, is that we as young men, we need to, if we're not going to get this kind of education at home, it has to come somewhere else. And you can't be teaching girls to wear to be wearing long skirts or anything. That's not the problem. The problem is that we're seeing these things and we start behaving that way. And I posted something a couple of weeks ago saying, educate your boys so that you don't have to protect your daughter. And that's a fact. That's what we as men should be fighting for, is the education that we need. If it's not happening at home, we need to get it at schools. If it's not at schools, it's on the sporting fields, because that's where we spend most of our times. And I remember when I was young and I got taught how to use a condom before I got taught how to pursue a lady or how to talk to a lady. I was 8 or 10 years old. I already knew how to use a condom, but I didn't know how to treat a lady or how to be a man. And I think we need to fight this problem from the ground up, and we as men need to behave and behave around our kids. I have to make sure how I speak to my wife, or I speak to my daughter in front of my son, is the way that I want him to be treating the next generation. And it might be too late for our Otatabe too, but we can still talk to them. And I still have to have some difficult conversation around my friends and around people who are close to me. And that's an important part, because it's easy for me to tell someone I don't know, hey, don't talk to the lady like that, or don't behave that way. But when it comes to people around you, let's say it's so difficult, it's personal. But once you go through that hurdle, and once you start understanding that, it's far more than that, because you will be killing someone or hurting someone to a place that they can't come back from. And as the sister Sosvini said, you can't blame the victim. You can't ask the victim like what they must do. That time is finished. The women have been fighting over and over. It's time for us now to stand up. Hence why I'm going to be speaking to men. I can't go talk to women. I can't tell women what to do. I have to speak to men and get men to start saying, this is our problem. We have to hear and listen, and then so we can move forward and can get the help that we need.
Thank you very much, Sia. You said a mouthful. The fact that how we raised the boys, the boy child is critical. And also the fact that most of the time, this violence is perpetrated by the people that we know, people that we are close to. And it's about time that men themselves stand up and be the ones that actually are in the forefront of this pandemic. President Batabile, the Women's League has been fighting this pandemic from day immemorial. You've been out there, you've been bearing, you've been leading marches, you've been addressing all corners. What is it that we are not doing right? And the Women's League knows this because this is one struggle that you have been leading. President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Nokawe. A lot has been done to fight gender-based violence and femicide. But we must remember that in South Africa, patriarchy is historical and systemic. But what I am afraid of is that there is some movement towards hatred, misogyny. People hate women. The way we are not accepting any form of killing women, but women are scorched to death. Pregnant women killed. It's getting worse. And secondly, this is in our systems. Patriarchy is systemic and it is structural. And as long as we don't shake the structures and institutions that instill violence, we're not going to see any change. But also, when governments and the society commit to fighting gender-based violence and femicide, there must be a commitment.
President, are you still online?
There must be a funding to fight gender-based, to measure and the difference. But also we should not point that this is a societal problem and we must all stand up and fight. Thank you, Comrade Nokawe.
Thank you very much, President. It's systematic and it's historical because patriarchy is historical. But you say something very profound, that people hate women and therefore this gender-based violence is getting worse. Sis Phumzile, you lead the UN Women. What is it that probably you think that between the UN and South Africa, we can be in partnership with to try and deal with this issue, particularly at the systemic level that President Batabile is talking about, and particularly at the issues of the patriarchy, because patriarchy is not only affects South Africans, it affects all women all over, and you've been dealing with this thing in all corners of the world.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nokawe. Firstly, I think it's important
that South Africa is part of a global community because we are then able to share our experiences. As it is now, South Africa has actually joined Generation Equality, which is looking at how we address the promises that were made in Beijing that have not been fulfilled, one of them being that of ending gender-based violence. So South Africa has offered to be a member of that coalition so that South Africa can also learn from other countries as well as contribute. But as Batabile says, the intensity of misogyny against women that we have seen in this world, in South Africa and beyond, the level of cruelty is such that we both need to do the long term, which is important, because so that we are able to win this battle from one generation to the other, as Sia was saying, fathers, parents behaving in a different way. But we actually, because this is an emergency, this is a pandemic. We are fighting coronavirus now. We know that it is urgent, that it is a pandemic. We take urgent means we calculate the number of people who die every day. We devise strategies as we walk so that we are changing and strengthening and devising new ways of responding to the pandemic, because this is the way we deal with pandemics. Gender-based violence is a global shadow pandemic. So it needs that level of intensity. And we need much better law enforcement because we are dealing with killers. We are dealing with murderers. We are dealing with people that, as Batabile said, almost act towards women as if they have revenge and scores to settle in the most cruel way. And these are not people you can sit down across a desk and start talking to nicely in order to de-escalate the tension. So the law has to show and demonstrate the seriousness with which this matter is taken. We also need to decrease the number of cases that are outstanding, because that too helps to give confidence in the system. So all the assistance that needs to be given to the institutions of justice that must do that work is critical. We also need to make sure that centers such as Tutuzela are funded and are expanded so that you are able to get the service everywhere in the country. So the intensity with which we are fighting this fight institutionally has not reached the right level. We need to push, but we need to be part of a global effort so that we are able to support each other as countries, and we're able to collaborate, because a win in every country and a win for every woman anywhere in any country is a win for all women, and men have to take their role. Sia, you have to tell Amajita, this is their responsibility. They are not doing women a favor when they are doing this. They are taking responsibilities as members of society so that the world is safer for them and for the people they also care about in this world. And there are some things that probably need to be said by other men. So I'm grateful to the role that some men are playing. I'm grateful to the churches and the role that the churches have begun to play in this fight, because everybody is important.
Thank you very much, Ms. Phumzile. We are part of the global family, and therefore that's why we have to make sure that we learn from other countries and improve. So Sbini, I know that when you started, you said you are exhausted. And you said, we've been doing this ever since you can remember. We've been fighting this gender-based violence. But obviously, this is not a fight that we are prepared to lose. We have to win. Exhausted as we are, but we still have to go on. What do you think that we need to improve and do better? Whether it is the government, whether it is society, that we can do better in terms of making sure that we actually strengthen this fight.
Thank you so much, Ma. Everybody needs to be held accountable. There's so much more that needs to be done. I think we spoke, Mamba Tabile spoke a lot about patriarchy and systems that were built, against women. It's historic. It's been there for such a long time and still exists even today. So before we can even move forward, that's what we need to do first, start dismantling the systems and creating, laws and that are more favorable to women, because right now they are not. I once had a conversation with Mama Phumzile this other time, and she reminded me of the time when we had, the apartheid era in South Africa, and a lot of countries turned their backs on South Africa when that happened. And, she said something so extraordinary. I was like, yes, that needs to happen. If South Africa is not taking gender-based violence seriously as it is, because it is an urgent matter and it should be treated as such. So if the government is not doing enough, then I feel like we should go back to that space where each and every country in the world turns their back on South Africa until they force the hands of, the government to start, making changes to the systems, to start being favorable towards women. I mean, something as simple as opening a case against someone is so disheartening. It's a long step. You have to go through a lot, and things like that shouldn't be happening. It should be very easy, and a crime should be treated as such, with urgency, like Mama said. And so I feel like that's what needs to be done the most, because we can teach boys and men as much as we want, but if some don't want to listen, then their hand has to be forced, and that's when the government needs to step in. But again, I want to echo Sia's words. I've said it so many times before, I think on every interview that I've spoken about how men need to start stepping up at a very, very young age. Teaching the young boys consent. If that's not happening at home, have a whole curriculum at school where we are teaching young boys this consent. They need to start unlearning these problematic behaviors at a very young age. I don't know if this happened during your time, Mama, but it happened with ours. I remember growing up in the playground where we would be playing all together with boys, and if a boy happened to hit you, people would say, oh, he likes you, he has a crush on you, that's how he's expressing it. And then that would be that. It's learning. This boy is learning, that love is violence. And as a young girl, I'm learning that to be loved is to be violated. It's things like that needs to, stop being dismantled in our minds. Stop this whole, teaching younger generations that way of thinking. Start teaching important things like consent. So there's so many more things that can be done. The media as well could take responsibility. Fashion as well could take responsibility. Small things like going into a shop to buy something for your child and there's a printed t-shirt. The prints on girls' clothes and the prints on boys' clothes is very different. It doesn't send, the same messaging. So a lot of people need to be held accountable. The media, business, corporates, the government, men, women, everyone. It's everybody's job to start doing right. But I feel like, once again, the more we talk and we do nothing about it, nothing is going to happen. So I'm hoping that the government can really, really step up and push to have policies that are really more favorable, towards women. We've seen it. The government is able to fight a pandemic. We've seen it with the coronavirus that came, they took very firm steps, and I feel like the same steps should be taken for gender-based violence.
Thanks, Zazi. Thanks, Tolokas. we need to change how we raise the boys particularly, and how the relationship between boys and girls is done as we grow up. Sia, you spoke about this, but briefly, when you started the issue of behavior, and uti amajita, that you need to speak more to amajita, but big issue here is the behavior of young men towards, and maybe we need to speak more about this behavior, because this is where the problem is. And maybe you can probably share more, Sia, and maybe talk, since you've observed this and you've spoken to some of your closest friends, how is the attitude?
Inzima kakhulu, because inzima xa ufuna uthetha nabantu abaziyo, because you're scared to lose a friendship, the bonds that have been formed in such a long time. But at the same time, as I'm hearing now, because it's either you do that, or the person is gonna keep on doing that, abulala bantu, or abuse someone to an extent that about people that can't recover. And it's difficult, but that's why we should be having this conversation, because it's not about me. It's not about my friends, it's about the people that have been hurt. And I think, Tina, we're selfish as men. We only care about our feelings and what we're going through. And, you know, listening to Uzo's Mini speak now, it's, you know, she said such a powerful thing. Everybody has a role to play. When I go to the store to buy my daughter a gift, I already know where to go, because there's a section for girls, and already they telling my daughter who to be, you know, what kind of toys she'll be playing with, the colors, it's pink colors, and those kind of things also need to change, you know. And I think at home as well, sikula kutiwa umama se kitchen and men just go work and come back and just give or buy food, and that's all that we need to do. And now I'm learning that no, that's not the case, because women work and they bring money home too, and us as men, we also have the part to play in our own homes. That's why I clean now. I clean up and clean. I cook. I do everything, because that's my part to play. We have to share responsibility, and we are equal here at our house. And from when I grew up, it wasn't like that. I just knew that usiswam uyozopeka every day, and umalumo is just gonna come home as an okuja. And I think the way we behave as men, and also when I'm hurt in their car in front of my kids, because I actually want them to know this is normal. It's normal to share these things. And I tell them I love them every day. Something that you don't hear often, the community I'm up on Suka Corner, and how we treat people around us and how we treat each other. That's what our kids, we can say all the nicest things in the world. If you don't behave that way, nothing will change, Mama. And I think us as men, we have a huge role to play, especially in the young boy's life, because I see with my son, that anything that I do, he will copy and do. Anything that I say, he will say it as well. So I have to make sure I'm thoughtful in everything that I do. And when let's say he does something to his sister, I have to explain to him why it's not right for him to do that. Instead of jumping there and smacking him and not saying anything, I actually have to explain, no, this is not how you behave because of this and that. And I think us as men, we just think smacking, and also it starts with us. If I have a confrontation on Nenindo, it's going to end up in a physical fight. And then you go talk to a lady as well. Then you go talk to her, you argue, then you think, it's better because you're not agreeing. Okay, you know, a conversation is not going where you want it to go. And then, like Goben Kula, abanye abantu, you know, they think, like Uzosbini said, that no, uyakuthanda. And then I'm hearing conversation. We also need to get rid of that shit, you know, because it's not right. No, this one is away because the thing was funny, but I got done better, you know. And I saw it from Kumama, and like this is why this is so important for me. Who can you picture up? I'll maybe send it to you guys to see. My mom was 17 years old. And I'd never seen her look like that. Then the next day she had me. when I'm older, when I saw that picture, I'm like, oh, my mama been scars everywhere. But in that picture, skin sakhe besisihle, no cuts whatsoever. Then I asked my brother, I'm like, do you know who this is? Mama, but I've never seen her pure face looking like that. And every single man that she dated left marks on her face. And when I was younger, there's nothing I could have done. And now I have a platform. Instead of using my platform only for things that I need to be using it so that it doesn't have to be someone's mother. It just has to be a human being, that they don't have to go through the same thing that she went through. And it's not like Uzos Bini said, women are tired of fighting over and over. Us as men, if you're a human being, you don't think it's wrong for somebody who's pregnant to be murdered, raped and killed. And if that doesn't make you feel sick in your stomach, then it's no problem. Sing a band of himself in the world, actually.
Thank you very much, Sia. I can vouch that the work at home is shared equally. I saw your dinner dish last night on Twitter. You you did a tweet about the dinner, and I wanted to comment that it might have looked a minor thing, but it's a very important message, because it talked about the fact that men can also do this kind of work. And you spoke about the issue of that when you grew up knowing that the women's place is in the kitchen. And this is one of the struggles that President Batabile and ourselves used to fight over and argue about as we started to understand the issue of gender equality. I just want President Batabile to come in and talk briefly about the issue of gender equality in relation to gender-based violence. And then I will hand over to Thobeka. President Batabile seems to have been cut off because I think as she is traveling. But let me go back then to Sispumzile. The relationship, Sispumzile, between the issue of gender equality and this gender-based violence. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
And then Thobeka, you will come in after Sispumzile.
Thank you. I think Sia has said it in such a touching way, just for her to illustrate that just the appearance of her mom defined the kind of status the man she dated put her. That the inequality between them, they used their physique in order to hurt her. And this was somebody that they are supposed to love. This thing that we're talking about, that women are hurt many times by people they have relationships with, and it becomes normalized in our society. If people don't talk about it, if people don't show that they're disgusted about it, young people and children think, okay, that's the way life is. We normalize inequality. So we have to find a way of showing disgust and not to be bystanders, whether it has to do with gender inequality, as well as where there's gender inequality and violence. So that people must know that, even from a young age, that both are not acceptable because they feed each other. I think the issue of consent was one of the issues that in Beijing received a lot of attention. Hence, there was also this call that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights, because before then, the issue of human rights and women was not discussed often in the same sentence. So consenting, which means that you have a right to say no was not seen as an issue. But when you said women's rights are human rights, then it says, when a woman says, no, this is her right, and you have to respect that. So we still have to repeat those things, because when you say women does not have consent, it means that there's no equality. Men can do what they like about women. I just want to emphasize the issue of liquor again, people. I mean, and I'm not saying people should not drink, but abuse of liquor does increase violence against women. As we speak, UN Women, together with the churches, together with tavern owners, together with community actors, we are actually in private sector, we are working together on the issue of the abuse of alcohol and the contribution it has on gender-based violence. And we've actually watched the statistics that show that where there is less alcohol consumed, less people who drink, violence against women decreases. So we need to make sure that we address this issue of excessive alcohol just on its own. And now, of course, there is COVID as well. It is also helping us to save lives, but it also is very important for reducing violence against women. And we must not allow anyone to be a bystander. Of course, we legally fight. You are either we are better, or if you are a bystander, you are also in conspiracy. Na law obetai. You know, there's a saying, Madiba once said, when good men do nothing, when women are oppressed, that becomes a conspiracy against women. So there is no room for bystander. Your role is as small as something you can do on the social media, something as big as you going into the community and doing activities. See, I was talking about her foundation, his foundation, and the thing that they do. It is in passing laws, but it is also being a policeman who does their job faithfully, who goes and makes sure that when a woman reports, she takes the case seriously. So there's a role for everybody. There is no bystander in this fight.
Yethu sonke le fight. Utsho Siphumzile. President Batabile, are you back online before I hand over to Thobeka?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay. If maybe, President, you can talk about the issue of gender equality in relation to the issue of the gender-based violence and how the ANC Women's League mitigate against this.
I think what is important is to try and push
She has a difficult.
She has. Thobeka, let me hand over to you. I also know that Zozibini will leave us very soon. So I hand over to you, Thobeka, and then probably you can then allow Zozibini to come in so that at least by the time she has to leave, because we are overworking this little girl. She has to be all over. So she has to go and be engaged in another program. Thobeka.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Zozi, in fact, this question is for everybody, but before you leave, Zozi, I'd like you to respond to it. As we're preparing for this program, I did some vox pop asking few young women on what what makes them to stay in relationships that are not working. And some of them said it's because of financial resources. So they need support, security, and definitely unemployment and poverty. So they're related to those three issues. So I would like you to expand or advise young women on how it's possible to live when it's not working. So perhaps motivate or inspire or advise them on why they should leave. I mean, we can't in many times you'll find them, after they late is then that parents will start saying, this guy was supportive, this guy was the breadwinner, and da 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 da. So I would like you to just say a word of you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thobeka. Before I, give my few words of motivation and encouragement, I really want to highlight that, even though women leave sometimes, you'll find that women leave, but they still, lose their lives, because people will give you that advice of why are you still in the relationship, leave. And here's an example of little Kwasa. Just last week, she got killed because she lived, a horrible relationship. So it's like whether you stay or whether you go, your life is still, in danger as a woman. And so that I just wanted to highlight that as well. Again, throwing it to the men, to do so much better than they are. But to answer your question, I'm known now for the tagline of taking up space, telling women and young girls to take up space. And this is my messaging, from my heart, and I mean it in so many ways. And when people ask me, what do I mean by taking up space? I always tell them that I mean recognizing your right to exist as a woman in every space that you choose to exist in, whether it's in your home, whether it's in corporate, whether it's in school. You need to first recognize that you have that right to exist in that space, and that you have as much power as anybody else to be in that space, and to know that you didn't enter through some back door and nobody did you a favor or handed you these things. You worked hard to get those things. And so that's what I mean by taking up space. And so I still, even today, encourage women to find that power within themselves, because we all have it. But because of the society that we grew up in, we are so scared to step into our power and accept ourselves for who we are. Because as a woman, if I step into my power, I get so many names called at me, just for, wanting to be in positions of leadership, wanting to be in positions where I can support myself. And so I want to encourage them to keep on, not being scared to step into their power because of what society will say to them. To know that they're their own superheroes, because we watch all these movies and women are always damsel in distresses waiting for, men to come rescue them. And that's not the case. You are the hero of your own story. And you need to start working on that today. So I think the more we realize how powerful we are as women, the more we realize how valuable we are as women, and how capable we are. That is the first step towards getting that confidence of being able to, to stand up for yourself and to show up for yourself every day. And so those are my words of encouragement. Find your power, and when you do, don't be scared to step into it, and don't be scared to be the hero of your own story, and choose yourself every day. Thank you.
Because I know that you only have a few minutes, I would like you to actually take us back when you started with #HeForShe. Please take us back, and if one would still want to be part and parcel of HeForShe campaign.
Thank you so much. HeForShe is actually a UN Women initiative that got introduced to me by Standard Bank, because I was going to go to the Miss Universe competition. There's a portion there where you wear a national costume. So it's usually for fun. People come and they wear this flamboyant costumes. And I was like, you know what? I want mine to have messaging, and I want it to have impact. And so I said, I'm going to make this a part of the HeForShe campaign, have South African men join in the fight, for gender-based violence, because that's what he for she is about. You know, it's about men in essence and boys standing up for women, fighting on the right side, fighting for, you know, gender equality, them being generation equality. And so that's what it's about. And it's still running. I'm sure Mama Phumzile can tell you about it as well. So if you go to the, you know, UN Women website, you'll definitely find it there. You can pledge. And, you know, you can read so many stories about so many men around the world who are doing so much incredible things to make sure that they are contributing towards gender and generation equality.
Okay. Thank you so much, Susie. Okay, you still have 2 minutes with us. Would
With
you
that
like
2 minutes, Rebecca, with
Ma'am?
that 2 minutes, can I ask Zazi to probably speak to the young men out there and call out on them to stop killing women before she leaves? I think it's going to be very important for that voice to actually, boyfriend. Speak to them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mama. Yes, I can definitely. I think throughout this conversation, we've just been speaking about how much we need them to be active, but also to realize that when you're silent, you're an enabler. Mama Phumzile already said it, you know, because you get a lot of men who say, I don't do it, I don't hit women, I don't kill women, so it's not my problem. You know, and I always tell this to people. There's a saying that just because it's not happening to you does not mean it's not happening. Just because you're not doing it doesn't mean it's not happening. And so we need to stop having enablers. We need to start having men sitting down and having these conversations of, you know, stopping a problem when you see it. You know, what kind of conversations are you having with your brothers? What kind of conversations are you having with your sons when you get together? What kind of conversations are you having with your colleagues? Because, you know, when we go to work in corporate spaces, we have what we call the boys' clubs, you know, where women aren't really allowed into that kind of space. When you are sitting in your boys' club, what are you talking about? What are you educating yourselves about? So those are the messages that I like to, you know, leave with men, to know that if you're silent, you are an enabler. You know, when people say things like men are trash, you know, which is very upsetting to a lot of people to hear because they feel attacked. You know, it's not me, it's not me. The reason why they're saying that is for you to actually join into the fight, because by not doing anything, you are actually an enabler. And so we need to stop having enablers and have people, you know, fight on the right side. And so that's my message for them. You know, just because you're not doing it doesn't mean your friend or your uncle or your father's not. So start having the right conversations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lucas.
I think Esther is actually about to pull you.
Esther is going to kill everyone.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love being a part of this panel and learning from everyone. Mama Phumzile, it's always such a pleasure to be on a panel with you. I feel like every time I leave, I've learned so much more. So thank you so much for being that guidance to me, and appreciate you so much. Butsia, thank you so much for being a part of this panel as a young man that, you know, a lot of young boys are looking up to. Your voice matters so much in our country and in our society. You know, whenever I think of you, I think of that time, you know, when a young boy came to you, there was a video circulating and he was crying when you were signing his boot. That's the kind of influence that you have. You know, whatever it is that you say to that young boy will stick forever. And so, you know, using your voice to say and do the right thing is so incredible. So keep on doing what you're doing and keep on inspiring and influencing these young boys. We appreciate you so much.
And goes Mom George.
Thank you, Mama Tabile, Tobega, and to everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for inviting me to be a part of this, and call me whenever, and I'll always be ready to, you know, come and speak.
That's what we would like to hear. Keep on shining there and hold that flag high for the country.
Thank you so much.
Despite all the challenges, we love you. Bye.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you very much. We continue, and Sis Phumzile, you know, this is the question I would have asked to Batabile Ubangaba Ebe online, but unfortunately she's not. A lot of times, the programs that we do as the women's organization are more about talking to ourselves. We would we would have workshops, we would have rallies, and we will be talking to ourselves. Don't you think it's about time that the women organizations now start talking to the men themselves, and we organize the men and we talk to them? What's your thought on that?
Actually, it is a priority for me. That is why we have the likes of Sia now in our midst. That is why we have the campaign He for She that Zazi was talking about, which is a platform to mobilize men to address the issue of toxic masculinity. And men also do not have to wait to be organized by us. They should also organize themselves. They should speak on the issues that they identify themselves as problematic amongst themselves. It's important that we have an increasing number of men who do not laugh at sexist jokes because they are not funny. That already becomes education. You know what SCI is regarded as locker room talk. There has to be people at the locker room who will say, actually, it is not okay to say these things that are denigrating about women or whatever else is unacceptable. But also, I think women need alliances with other causes so that we are fighting injustices. Right now, there's a strong rise up against racism. We need to link gender and race also. And I would like to say to men from South Africa especially, if you understand the challenge of being Black in society and everything that you have to face, which you can not do anything about because the color of your skin will always tell who you are, that it is like that to be a woman. In many cases, just your gender sentences you to discrimination, ill treatment, gender-based violence, and many other ills. So you have, in some ways, walked in these shoes in a different way within the context of the racial struggle. And if other Black people do not fight with you, and also we also do not mobilize white people as well to also be part of fighting racism, you will not make as much progress as we need to do. That is why as women also, we need to mobilize men to fight this struggle for their own community, for themselves, and for the future of humanity. And if I may say, I'm sorry I'm taking so much time. I just think that for us as South Africans, we have so many role models on so many fronts who have set a very high bar for ourselves, especially those of us who are in leadership position, who have been exposed to good values. If you just think of that generation, Tatu Sisulu or Tatu Mandela, and how they would articulate gender equality, it's not of short of umkhabulo amongst the men who, most of whom are leaders today, because we did have people who did set the bar very high for us. It's the same also if you even talk about issues such as corruption. We are so lucky in South Africa. And now we have got these fantastic young people, Zazi, how many countries have got in one country this pool of talent that is admired around the world, that you can put in front of everybody and they stand their own. So I'm just saying, to whom so much has been given, much more is expected. We need to take advantage of all these opportunities that we've been given as South Africa, notwithstanding all the problems we have. But we have a lot of people to look up to and a lot of people to inspire us, from the young ones we are with today to the ones that are old who are now gone, etc. We have role models in our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Phumzile. I know that I got into that question when Thobeka had asked the question to everybody. But I thought it's important that what you have said is very critical. The same energy that we had fought apartheid, that we had fought racism, is the same energy that we must use to fight gender-based violence. That's what Ms. Phumzile is saying. Thobeka, I'm sorry that I had to come in when I know that you had a question on the floor. You can continue.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Ma'am Phumzile, I'd like you to continue with the hashtag #HeForShe campaign, because when I went to the website yesterday, I think South Africa, we had like 23,000 plus. So I think this could perhaps be part of the solution, that we need to also populate it. So.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to use this platform to mobilize for #HeForShe. Because you can actually go to #HeForShe and you can sign up as a man. And what we are trying to create is an opportunity for every man who have an access to a gadget to identify themselves with this cause and to do even this very small gesture. Obviously, we would like them to do more, but hopefully when you get into the site, we hope that you will be fascinated by the things that people do, and you will also learn from it. And we count, well, every time you register from your country, it tells us how many men have registered from each country. So South Africa, come on, you can do better than that. There are countries with smaller population than South Africa who have many, many, many more men who have registered, which means the conversation in those countries are much more dynamic. And we need this dynamic conversation in South Africa. And anybody can register to #HeForShe and use the #HeForShe emblem to start activities, to engage, to mobilize. It's a free for all. It's open source. You can use it to promote the fight against gender equality, a fight for gender equality.
Thank you so much. I think again, one would like us to go back to the poverty, unemployment issue, because and also I have, in fact, well, one can say it's a testimonial, but I have a friend that when she heard that, in fact, when she heard from the news that someone that, in fact, her son that is the perpetrator of a young girl who was murdered 3 months ago, when she heard from the news and the boy was at home, she immediately called police. And I call that woman a Shiro, because this is what we need. And this is part of the solution. So as painful as it is as a mother, that if you are told that your son has murdered someone, so are we able as women to come out and say, I would not protect my son, I would call the cops. So I would also like us to also advocate on that can we as women be truthful and be honest?
No, absolutely. I would even like to give Usia an opportunity first to talk about the men that context, if Unyana comes to Udada talking about how he has violated a girl in whatever way, what should, maybe Sia, you can just share, what should Udada say to their boys? What is the role? Because that's a role modeling moment. And then I want to respond about our responsibility as mothers.
Mama, I think Usis Tobeka has said it, like what Mama did, even though it was her son. I mean, if you've got, you have to make sure that our now favoritism or our co-bias towards your son. I mean, you have to, obviously for me right now is Unik, my son, when he does something to my daughter, I pull him aside and I explain to him, this is not how you behave, because on so and so, this is how you treat. And if obviously older went into a lot, I have to report him. I have no choice. No matter how hard it is, I still have to do it because he needs to know there's consequences for him behaving like that. If I don't do anything about it, it's like Uzozi said, then I'm enabler telling him that it's okay, because he will say no, it's okay, and he will keep on doing it because I've seen it in the past. Because where I grew up, if you don't tell on them once, or if you don't go to the police, which is another thing, it's tough because people can't really go to the police because the police investigate the victim, which is a problem, you know. I ask Sisi, like, why aren't you going? But no, because the what are they wearing? When he said, like, when's they can do it, all of that. I'm like, how about you take the case, arrest the person, and then start your investigation? Because uzophinda goduke la sisayefumana into one, okanye children who are underage who get abused by their parents. Then they go to the police, they get told, no, they're too young, they need somebody older. How can you bring somebody that's abusing you, you know? And sometimes an outside person who's not part of the family is not allowed to take you. And then also something that was spoken about is the fact that we are living in a time of a pandemic right now of COVID-19, but you also said now this is the pandemic also what's happening to women. But the actions that were taken for COVID-19 by the government and having soldiers and police on the floor, the same thing is not happening for women. You know, it's huge to see how the soldiers are there each and every single day. But for women, it's like nobody is thinking this is enough, and we have women dying each and every single day. That's what I always wonder. What do we need? Do we need to see actual physical proof on videos like it happened in America with George Floyd? I mean, this is, sorry, my daughter is just knocking at the door.
Yeah, that she doesn't understand what is they doing there.
No,
and
she's
not
looking for her
allowing
mother.
them.
She's outside. Sorry. Mama is outside.
Mom, it's raining outside.
Oh, she's
It's
in a
raining.
meeting. Yeah, it's raining.
No, that's
Okay,
fine. You can keep her there. Continue.
Okay, yeah, and as I was saying, I would love to see the same response for gender-based violence as it was shown for COVID-19. And another thing, so many for small foundations, small people in the communities doing such amazing work with limited resources, and the amount of resources that the government has is way more than what we can do as with our small foundations. And I think even a place like a police station, if you have somebody that's there who is waiting for victims of GBV, who knows about it, so they can speak to the woman, a woman who can be there and talk to the woman, so they can speak the same, so they can understand each other. Because now people don't want to go to the police because they know, oh, it's just another case. It happens so many times. Or if it's just a knock or a bruise, no, that's normal. You can't or anything like that. And yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna have to find ways as men. We have to find ways, and most importantly, we have to listen to the woman. We have to listen and hear and unlearn so many things, like we said earlier. There's so much, and culturally as well. Some cultures just look down to women, and Umam Pumzile spoke about it, about gender equality. How can we fight for equality amongst each other amongst races if we don't even have gender equality amongst one another? How can women stand with men to fight for equality if they're not getting equality around the society? Those are some of the things we need to be fighting this together so that we win this one. We defeat gender-based violence. We go into the next one. There's so many social issues, but we need to prioritize. Abantu bayafa, there's no time to keep quiet. Abantu are losing, people are important to them. Don't wait until it happens to someone that you know, to someone that you love, for you to take action. You must be doing something right now so that abantwana bethu don't have to live in fear. That's why I'm fighting each and every single day. I want to be part of a generation that breaks this cycle. I want to be part of the generation that says, you know what, I gave everything I can to make sure that this doesn't become a problem for Unyana Wam Kaikula. He knows exactly how to talk. So he is educated enough so that I don't have to protect Umdana Wam.
Maybe on that note, Sia, on the 18th of July, when the UN Secretary General was delivering the lecture on Madiba, you were then named as the UN Global Advocate for Spotlight Initiative. And one of the objectives of this is to eliminate all forms of violence against women and the girl child by 2030. Maybe talk more about this initiative for us, whilst you've just spoken about this, so that we can be able to link your passion of what you've just said and what you've been appointed on.
Yeah, Mama, I think be minimalege kakhulu for them now, and bendine nerves, of course. Beninga kosho ndi ready or anything like that. Kakhulu, Mama, because and there's both good in the ready to be speaking about this kind, this kind of, because it's huge and you gotta be fully committed and you gotta give it everything you have, because the people that have been exposed to the work that United Nations is doing is not done half-heartedly, it's done full out. And I think for us here in South Africa, we need it. We need more men to be part of this. And the Spotlight Initiative is to end violence, in all sorts of violence around the world, because I think, one violence leads to another, and then another to another. And also for men who are playing this masculine sport like rugby, to also be saying that, okay, I might be on the field violent, but that's where it ends. Outside that, I'm a father who treats my children with love, who treats my wife with love, and I use my words more than anything else. And also, we need to learn, if we have a problem, get someone, get help. That's what the problem we're having as men. We are scared to open up and be vulnerable around each other. We need to start having those spaces that we can speak about serious stuff instead of talking about what are we doing this weekend, where we're drinking or where they partied. We need to start having serious conversation, and we need to have them around our kids so that they can see that we don't talk just about having fun, but also about social issues, about stuff that matters. Because if we don't get these things right, if we don't end violence around everything, because that's why men feel like they can hit anyone, because that's what they do. They challenge each other that way, and then they take it to home. The conversation gets heated with their wives, instead of walking out and going to cool off before you say something stupid or do something. And also violence or this abuse is not only physical, it's also abusive words. You must rather walk out and leave, because sometimes words are hurtful to you, but you don't have to say something back in return. Just walk and then come back, and then you maybe think of saying something differently. And sometimes I also need help. I go and get somebody who can help me to say, okay, this is how you act in this situation, or this was wrong. And that's what we need, because we're scared to be vulnerable. We're scared to cry because we just want to be hardcore. Ufuno, oh, this guy is strong, he's so tough. You must be tough at your work. Like for me at the field, when I walk out of that field, in the changing room, I become a person that needs help like anybody else. I become vulnerable because I need to show my kids that, okay, my dad is like this there, but when he comes home, this is how he's acting.
Thank you so much, Sia. We can assure you that you don't have any reason to be nervous. You are actually doing a good job. I'm sure Sis Pumzile will come in and confirm this. But when whilst she's gonna come in and confirm that you are actually the best, I don't doubt it. You're gonna do a very, you are already doing it already. But Sis Pumzile, whilst you're gonna come in, I also want you to share your thoughts about the fact that, particularly here in South Africa, on the month that we call it the Women's Month, on the 16 days of violence against women and children, that violence seems to be out of hand. It's as if people are saying, we're going to show you that all these things that you're trying to do, it doesn't affect us. Right now, in this August month, as we know that it's a Women's Month, left, right, and center, we've seen how much violence was perpetrated in the country. What's your thought about this?
Yeah. Well, obviously the first thing and the first prize is to prevent any harm happening to women on any month. For it to be so intense in a month when we are supposed to be showing appreciation and encouraging women to flourish, to prosper, it's actually devastating. And I do want to go back to the need for the system to gear up so that it is even more vigilant and more resilient than the perpetrators, the systems in society that are supposed to protect women in the community, in the churches, in the law enforcement area. You know, I think that if the law enforcement area can excel in the way they respond and they deal with this problem, we could create a significant deterrence. But also, as a comrade, I want to remind you of a time when we used to organize a street committee. You know, at that time myself was living in Cape Town, Eguguletu. And Eguguletu also not being a big township, it was easy for us to literally have a street committee, I think in every street. So you knew people who lived in your street, and people take responsibility for being accountable for what was happening in their community. At that time, obviously, one of our biggest aims was to fight apartheid, but also it was to take care of each other as a community. Usanko, at that time, knew exactly what was happening. Abahlali, people who were given responsibility, we respected them for the responsibilities they had in society. And I have to say, with nothing, they did an amazing job to keep communities safe. And people in families knew that if you were messing up in your family, you are going to hear from your neighbor. You are going to hear from a community meeting. You are going to be discussed in a street committee meeting. I almost think that we need, I think we need to go back to that. We need all of these institutions that are highly decentralized in society to be part of this, because you can find these institutions in every part of our community. We find, if you think about elections and how we are able to map the whole country, and we have party agents and doni in every polling station. We know what is happening. This problem is so serious. We need that level of organization, and we have it in us as South African to organize to that extent. We actually know how to be granular about organizing people, whether we've seen it when we've organized for elections, we've seen it when we've done street committees, we've seen it also when we collaborate with our churches who are also intertwined with many things we do in our communities. So I'm also asking to you, Manje, also as a member of the Women's League and a leader in the ruling party, use the infrastructure that you have, which is the people. Let us make sure that the members own this problem. And I know that you have perpetrators in every society, including in the organizations that we lead, but we also have many good people in those organizations who can help to own the problem, who don't want to be bystanders, who, if they are given an instruction to take over and help to solve this problem, they can actually go and help us, and we can go a long way in addressing the problem.
I was muted. That's a very profound, but also in the area where I am currently working in government, which is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. One of our responsibility is to foster social cohesion in the country and nation building. And there is not gonna be any nation building and social cohesion if we don't deal with the issue of gender-based violence, because we need to make sure that that is handled well so that we can have proper social cohesion. I hope Sia is gonna be, is he still here? Because I was gonna ask Sia that what does he think that sport, where he is, sport can play a critical role in this area of nation building and social cohesion. Because when we talk gender-based violence, we need to be able to understand that we're not going to be able to reach this. Your thoughts here around the issue of the role of sport on making sure that we build social cohesion in the country and we actually build a nation.
No, Mom, I think sport can play a huge role in this because I think we are obviously sportsmen, but we are also role models, and I think a lot of people look up to sportsmen, and I think we have such a huge platform, and I think we have a platform and we have a reach that some governments can't get to, you know, especially the little kids. They'll rather listen or look at what I'm doing instead of listening to like whoever else who's in a different role. And I think by the way we act and how we use our social platform to be talking about social issues like this, and especially like such a macho sport where men are supposed to be all hardcore. And I think if we can start showing the vulnerability and also start showing like the importance of how we need to be using our platform and how we talk about the way we act, you know, the kind of things we do at home, like simple thing like you said, Mama, like the cooking and the cleaning. That's so important for young people to know that we are more than just sportsmen, and as a man, there is so much that you can do. It's more than just going to get money and that's about it. You can clean, you can cook you can look out for yourself, you know. And you know, it's those kind of small things, the conversations we are having. What am I posting on my social media? What am I talking about? Because people are looking. And if I'm showing negative stuff, that's how the people that are looking up to me are going to see. And the more we say, even equality in sport as well, you know, the females have to be looked after the same as the men, because we put in the same amount of work and we play the same sport. So those stuff needs to be addressed. And in the working environment also, it also needs to be the same, because if we put in the one group here, and we also think ourselves that we're not gonna get where we want to be, because like I said earlier, if we are all equal and we treat each other equal, we all need to be, then we'll be able to fight for the same things. if gender equality is important and we as men fight for that to make sure it happens, then we can start fighting for racial equality as well. You know, we can't be divided and still want to be achieving the same things. I think we need to step out and stop fighting for everything else and start fighting. And people always say it's not our fight, it's not our fight. That's rubbish. You have a platform and you have so many people who've played such a huge impact in your life. Like for me, it's always been the woman. When I talk about my life, about my youth, it's the women that have played such a huge role. And if I do not use the platform to fight and end GBV and to get gender equality, I'll be failing everybody who sacrificed everything to make me the person that I am today. And I'm encouraging everyone. You don't have to have umakulu that look after you. You just need to make sure that omnyum makulu omnyum is looked after, omnyusis omnyum or omnyum dana nobang uindoni that is you are doing your bit to make sure that you are sending positive energy around South Africa and for the kids around us and anybody else who's looking at you.
Thank you very much, Sia, for those kind words towards us. Sis, no mama, no auntie, no, you know, that at least we've got that role. Whilst this gender-based violence is ripping the country, our role is critical in actually building the nation. As we are going towards slowly towards winding up, Tobeka, I'm giving you, if you still have some questions, but and then probably that would be the last round of questions, and then we would then allow Usia and Sis Phumzile to come in and say, after those questions, to say some few words. Remember, we've lost President Women's League, but nicely we saw where she was traveling. It was in darkness, so we understand. Over to you, Tobeka.
Okay, man, thank you so much. I understand that Mamu Phumzile will other engagement, so we also ought to release her. But before she leaves, Mama would like you to have your last comments, and then from there we also need to release Ubutsia because you also need to
do his role and look after the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, Sia, we have to increase your vocabulary on these gender issues. So when you do work at home, it's called unpaid care work. And right now in the world, it is estimated that, as you know, probably, most of the unpaid care work in the world is shouldered by women in every society. And countries that have prospered, that have done well, are the ones who have found systemic, legal, and forcible way to enhance the role of men in performing unpaid care work. So companies that give parental leave so that men can also take paternity leave, women therefore are able also to go back to work. Men who are able to be at home and be around children much more because their job understands that they have that responsibility and put it in their contract as an option. They have to prioritize going to a sports match than going to a board meeting, are able to be role model parents and to have happier families. And that has been quantified into dollars. And we've seen countries like Norway, how that has made a difference. So keep up the unpaid care work. It's very good for the economy. It's very good for your soul as well. My parting words before I leave firstly to thank you, Deputy Minister, for your department to provide us this platform. And maybe just to speak specifically in my parting words about your department, because you work with people who are admired a lot by society, both those who are artists and those that who are our sports heroes. So you are sitting there with a very important constituency of change makers. Abantwana would listen to sports heroes and artists even more than they would listen to their parents, for instance. So it's important to give them these kinds of opportunity for them to use this currency that they have. Otherwise, we are wasting a lot of very important currency when we do not give them this opportunity to play this. And my parting words also is to say, and in particular to gender-based violence, which is glamorized, treating women in a way that does not put women on a higher pedestal, whether you're talking about film, if you're talking about arts, whether you're talking about women's sports, it needs to be corrected by departments like yourselves, who need to intervene and make sure that you speak on behalf of women. And of course, the voices of men, I think, have made a difference in sports to help to elevate the women's games so that they get more respect. We are not there yet in many ways, but it's important for girls to also know that they can count on the support of the guys. And of course, that all of us can count on your support when we are fighting gender-based violence. So, Sia, mninzi umsebenzi, we will be calling on you in many countries. And now, njengoba ku-lockdown, asizokufumana ngoba sokuthola la ku-virtual space. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Gozi, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Sis Phumzile, for really gracing us with your presence. And we knew that when we are here with you, there's a lot that we will learn. It's impossible that we can sit in the same platform with you and we live without being changed people. So thank you so much for always being available. And if I call on you, even though you don't answer your phone too much, but we know that you are always available for us when we need you. Thank you very, very much. We don't underplay the kind of work that you are doing in the world, but you always find time for us even here at home. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Sia. See you soon.
And Gozi, Mama, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sia, your parting words.
I use my voice and the experience that I faced when I was younger to make sure that all those that have happened, all the things that have happened to the loved ones, that don't happen to any other person, any woman, and for me as a man and as a human being, that I don't condone any sorts of violence, especially against women and kids. And I want to make sure that I make that loud and clear. And people in my circles, if they do those things, that they know that they won't be in my circle anymore, because this is how serious things are. And for men, there's no such thing as bro code anymore. Looking after your friends, because people are losing lives, people are losing their friends, people are losing their children, and there is no time for that right now. We need to build a strong society. There's so many issues here, but the things that we can control, we must control, and use whatever it is around you to make sure that you are adding your voice, you are adding your presence in this, because this is a fight for everyone. And people need to know we all have a role to play, no matter how big or how small. Even if it's one person that you change their life, that one person could influence another person, and it could keep on going like that. And for me as a young man, and I know we have had so many leaders, and I'm looking at the leaders right here who fought for South Africa for the freedom in South Africa. I want to say this is one of the fights that I want to be remembered for anything else that I do, but this is so important for me that I want to make sure that I use everything I can in my power and my platform and everything to make sure that I play a part in ending this and influencing other men, so that this generation can say, we have fought for something that our kids can fight the next fight.
Thank you very much, Sia. Thank you so much. We know how hectic you are. Your schedule is mad, but you made time to come and join us. We don't take this for granted. And we know that the young people that are out there listening to you, particularly those young men that are looking up to you, some of them are like, yo, what he's saying here is not like how he plays in the field. He looks so tough in the he looks so tough in the field, but yeah, you know what, the way he's talking now, which is exactly what we need. And I really want to appreciate that voice. Thank you so much. We will be calling on you more often. We hope that when we call, you will respond.
No,
Tobeka?
I'll be here, Mama.
Yes. Your last words, Tobeka.
Hey, Mama, thank you so much. I would like to close with a quote from Umamu Ellen Kuzwayo, kwincwadi yakhe that she wrote ethi, Call Me Woman. She says, and I quote, I consider feminists to be women who recognize they are oppressed as women and who are prepared to fight for basic rights, privileges, and choices which women should have in their society. So with this, I want to say thank you so much to all our panelists. Putsiya usekhona. Thank you. Sizakufonela, sakufuna kumaxa amaninzi. So please avail yourself. And siyabulela nakuZozi, nakumama uPhumzile. So all of you, you'll always be needed in this platform. Nakumama uBathabile, and thank you so much. We are truly humbled. My mother, you are the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I know we are sharing you. So, so thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate you. And we want to apologize to the viewers with Facebook. Some were expecting which will be on SABC, but we had breaking news, which breaking news were the minister to address the new regulations on e-transport. So please forgive us. So next time you'll be able to watch us on SABC or any other channel. So thank you again and stay blessed. Next month we're coming, it's gonna be hot again. Great panelists as well. So South Africa, I know that we love you and we've got great things in store for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. But we finished now. And we even if you are not in the panel, when we have these kind of platforms here, we will call you in just to join, so that at least even if you're not going to be talking, you can be able to learn more, so that when you go out there in the world, you hear all the voices that our people are saying. Thank you. Thank you so much. We need to fight this gender-based violence, all of us, as Pumzile has said. It is a fight that we must all take. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.